Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his forehead as he watched the massive drilling machine bite into the rocky surface of Kepler for 4b. The planet was hot, dusty, and far from Earth, but it held treasures that made the long journey worth it. Rare metals that could power starships for decades lay buried deep in the red soil. Another good day, Jake said to himself, checking the readings on his tablet. The numbers looked good, very good. His mining team had been working on this planet for 3 months now, and they were ahead of schedule. The company back on Earth would be happy. Lisa Park looked up from her computer screen near the main tent. She was the team's engineer, and her job was to make sure the big machines kept working. "Jake, you need to see this," she called out. Her voice sounded worried. Jake walked over to Lisa's workstation. The screen showed data from deep underground. "What am I looking at?" he asked. "The planet's core," Lisa said, pointing at the colorful graphs. "It's not stable like we thought. There's something strange down there. The rocks contain elements that could react badly if we hit them wrong." Danny Cole jogged up to them, his face covered in dirt from working on the drill heads. Danny knew more about explosives than anyone on the team. Before becoming a miner, he had worked with the military, blowing up things that needed to be blown up. "Did someone say unstable?" he asked with a grin. "The planet," Lisa explained. "The core has uranium mixed with rare earth metals. If they get heated up in the right way, they could start a chain reaction." Danny's grin faded. "How big of a reaction?" "Big," Lisa said quietly. Jake looked at the data again. The information was interesting, but not immediately dangerous. They were mining on the surface, not drilling to the core. "Make a note in the report," he told Lisa. "The science teams back home will want to study this." Dr. Amy Chen emerged from the cave entrance 50 yards away. She was the team's geologist, spending most of her time underground mapping the cave systems. The caves were vast, stretching for miles in every direction. Some went so deep that Amy had not found their bottom yet. "Jake," Amy called out, "you should see what I found down there." The caves connect to natural gas pockets. If someone lit a match in the wrong place, half the mountainside could blow up. "Good thing we don't smoke," Danny said, but his joke fell flat. Everyone was starting to realize that their peaceful mining operation sat on top of a very dangerous planet. That was when the sky began to change. Jake noticed it first. The bright blue sky started to darken, as if storm clouds were rolling in, but there were no clouds. Instead, massive shapes blocked out the sun. Ships, alien ships. "Everyone to the emergency stations," Jake shouted. The team had practiced this drill many times. They knew what to do if hostile aliens showed up. The alien ships were huge, each one the size of a city block. They were made of some kind of blue crystal that seemed to glow with its own light. As Jake watched, smaller ships detached from the big ones and headed toward the mining site. Lisa was already at the communications console, trying to send a message to Earth. "No good," she said. "They're blocking our signals. We can't call for help." Danny ran to the weapons locker and started handing out plasma rifles. The mining team was not military, but they knew how to defend themselves. Space was dangerous, and mining crews always carried weapons. The first alien ship landed near the main drilling site. The door opened with a hiss, and out stepped the strangest beings Jake had ever seen. They were tall, nearly 8 feet high, with blue skin that looked like it was made of crystal. Their faces were angular and sharp, with large black eyes that seemed to see everything. "Humans," the lead alien said. His voice came through a small device on its chest that translated the words. "You will surrender immediately. Resistance will result in harm." Jake raised his plasma rifle. "This is our mining operation. You have no right to be here." The alien, who seemed to be their leader, studied Jake with those black eyes. "I am War Prime Vexthal of the Zephyrian Empire. We claim this planet for our people. You will submit or be destroyed. Like hell we will," Danny said, aiming his weapon at the aliens. More alien ships landed around the mining site. Dozens of the blue-skinned creatures poured out, carrying weapons that hummed with energy. Jake realized quickly that his small team was outnumbered 10 to 1. "Your species has a reputation," Vexthal said calmly. "Humans are known throughout the galaxy for being unpredictable, dangerous. You find ways to cause destruction even when it seems impossible." Jake and his team formed a defensive circle, but they all knew it was hopeless. The aliens had better weapons, more soldiers, and ships that could destroy the entire mining site from orbit. "We have studied human history," Vexthal continued. You turn farming tools into weapons. You make bombs from cleaning supplies. You find ways to kill each other with items meant for peace. This creativity makes you dangerous. The battle, if it could be called that, lasted only minutes. The aliens used some kind of stunning weapon that made Jake's muscles stop working. He fell to the ground, unable to move, watching as his team suffered the same fate. When Jake woke up, he was in a small room made of the same blue crystal as the alien ships. His head hurt, and his arms and legs felt weak. He tried to stand, but found that his movements were slow and clumsy. The stunning effects will wear off soon, a voice said. Jake turned to see Vexel standing outside his cell. But by then, you will be completely harmless. What do you mean? Jake asked. We have taken everything, Vexel said with what might have been satisfaction. Every weapon, every tool, every piece of technology that could be used to cause harm. Your plasma rifles, your mining explosives, your communication devices, even your multi-tools and welding equipment. We have removed your boots because they contain metal that could be made into weapons. We have taken your belt buckles, your watches, even your pens. Jake looked down at himself. The aliens had dressed him in a simple cloth outfit. No pockets, no metal, nothing that could be turned into a weapon. Your reputation for violence ends here, Vexel said. You cannot harm anyone without tools, and you have no tools. Through the crystal walls, Jake could see other cells. Lisa was in one, Danny in another. They looked as confused and helpless as he felt, but Amy was nowhere to be seen. Jake hoped she had escaped into the caves. Where are you taking us? Jake asked. Nowhere, Vexel replied. This ship will remain on the planet while we establish our colony. You will be our guests until we decide what to do with you. Do not worry. You are completely safe. And more importantly, everyone else is safe from you. The alien leader walked away, leaving Jake alone in his crystal prison. But Jake was not thinking about escape. He was thinking about what Lisa had told him about the planet's unstable core, and about what Amy had said about the gas pockets in the caves. The aliens thought they had made him harmless by taking away his weapons. They were about to learn that sometimes the biggest weapon is knowledge. 3 days passed in the crystal prison before Vexel came to see Jake again. The alien leader seemed curious about humans, asking strange questions about Earth and human behavior. Jake answered some questions and ignored others, but he was always listening and learning. Your people interest me, Vexel said during one of these visits. Most species we conquer become quiet and sad when we take their weapons. Well, you seem to be thinking about something, planning something. Jake looked up at the tall alien. Maybe I'm just trying to understand why you're here. This planet doesn't seem like much. Hot, dusty, not much water. Why do you want it? The same reason you were here, Vexel replied. The metals, but also because it is far from other civilizations. A good place to build a colony without interference. Jake nodded slowly. The alien was telling him useful information without realizing it. The Zephyrians were planning to stay. They were not just stopping by to steal the mining equipment. They wanted to live here. How many of your people are coming? Jake asked. Thousands. They are already on their way in larger ships. Within a few months, this planet will be home to a new Zephyrian colony. Vexel seemed proud of this plan. Jake tried not to smile. Thousands of aliens, planning to build a permanent home on an unstable planet. The irony was almost funny. I could help you, Jake said suddenly. Vexel's black eyes stared at him. Help us? How? We've been mining here for months. We know this planet better than anyone. The best places to dig, the dangerous areas to avoid, how the weather patterns work. That knowledge could save your people a lot of time and trouble. The alien leader was quiet for a long moment. You would help the people who conquered you. Jake shrugged. I don't see that we have much choice. You're going to colonize the planet whether we help or not. At least if we cooperate, maybe you'll treat us better. It was a lie, of course. Jake had no intention of actually helping the aliens. But he needed to get out of this cell, needed to see what they were doing, needed to find out where they were building their colony. Vexel left without giving an answer. But Jake knew the alien was thinking about it. The Zephyrians were smart, but they were also practical. They would want to use human knowledge if it made their colonization easier. 2 days later, Jake got his answer. Vexel returned with 2 other aliens carrying what looked like electronic collars. You will help, U.S., Vexel announced. But you will wear these devices. They will track your location and render you unconscious if you try to escape or cause harm. Jake allowed them to put the collar around his neck. It was heavy and cold against his skin. A small red light blinked steadily on the front. "Your engineer. Friend will also help," Vexel said. "She knows about the mining machinery. Your explosive expert will remain in his cell. We do not trust him near anything that could be dangerous." Jake was disappointed that Danny would not be joining them, but having Lisa would be helpful. She understood the planet's geology almost as well as Amy. They brought Lisa to Jake's cell first. She looked tired but alert. The aliens had given her a collar identical to Jake's. "Are you really planning to help them?" Lisa whispered when the aliens moved away for a moment. "Help them dig their own graves," Jake whispered back. Lisa's eyes widened slightly, but she nodded. She understood. The aliens escorted Jake and Lisa outside to see their progress. In just 5 days, the Zephyrians had accomplished an impressive amount of construction. Blue crystal buildings rose from the red soil, and alien workers moved everywhere with purpose and efficiency. But Jake noticed something that made his heart race with excitement. The aliens had built their main colony directly over the area where his team had detected the most geological instability. They had chosen the worst possible location without realizing it. "Impressive, isn't it?" Vexel asked, gesturing at the construction. "Very impressive," Jake agreed. "You work fast. But I'm curious about something. Why did you choose this location for your main buildings? It is flat and has good soil for construction." Vexel explained. "Our surveys showed it was geologically stable." Jake managed to keep his expression neutral. The aliens had survey equipment, but they did not understand the planet like humans did. Their scans had missed the deep instabilities that Lisa's more detailed analysis had found. "That's good," Jake said. "Though I should mention, my team found some interesting geological formations in this area. Nothing dangerous, just unusual. The rock layers go very deep, and there are some rare mineral deposits that might be valuable." Vexel's interest was immediate. "What kind of minerals?" "Uranium compounds mixed with rare earth elements. They're deep underground, probably not worth mining, but they make interesting reading on geological scans." Lisa caught on quickly. "Yes, we documented several deposits like that. They seem to be connected to the cave systems underground." "Show us," Vexel demanded. Jake and Lisa spent the next several hours walking around the colony site with Vexel and several other aliens. They pointed out areas where the human scanners had detected unusual mineral formations. They explained how the underground geology worked, how different rock layers interacted with each other. To the aliens, it was just scientific information that might help them understand their new home better. They did not realize that Jake and Lisa were giving them a detailed map of exactly where the planet was most vulnerable to geological disruption. "These uranium deposits," one of the alien scientists asked, "could they be dangerous if disturbed?" "Only if you heated them up somehow," Lisa explained, "or if you created the right kind of resonance in the rock around them. But that would require very specific conditions and a lot of energy." The alien scientist made notes on his device. "Interesting. We will be careful not to disturb them during our deep construction projects." Jake almost laughed. The aliens were planning deep construction projects directly on top of the most unstable part of the planet. They were going to do the work for him. That night, back in their cells, Jake and Lisa used hand signals to communicate while the aliens were not watching. They had developed a simple code. During their years of working together in dangerous mining situations, Jake signaled, "Amy still free?" Lisa signaled back, "Think so. Cave's good hiding place." Jake signaled, "Need to contact her. Tell her about colony location." Lisa signaled, "How?" That was the question. How could they get a message to Amy when they were being watched constantly, and their every movement was tracked by the collars? Jake lay awake that night thinking about the problem. He needed to find a way to communicate with Amy, to let her know where the aliens were building their colony, and how they might be able to use the planet's instability against them. The answer came to him just before dawn. The aliens had taken away all human technology, but they had left the planet itself unchanged. And Amy knew this planet's cave systems better than anyone. If Jake could find a way to leave signals that Amy would recognize, signals that the aliens would not understand, he might be able to coordinate with her. The next morning, when Vexel came to collect them for another day of consultation, Jake was ready with a new plan. "I want to show you something that might interest you," Jake told the alien leader. "There are some geological formations near the mining site that could affect your construction." places where the rock is different, where you might want to build differently. Vexthal agreed, and soon Jake and Lisa were walking around the mining site under alien guard. But Jake was not really showing them geological formations. He was leaving a trail of small signs that Amy would understand if she was watching from. The caves, a stone placed in a certain pattern, dirt scraped in a specific way. Small marks that meant nothing to aliens, but would tell Amy everything she needed to know about the colony's location and the opportunities it presented. By the end of the day, Jake had laid out a complete message in the landscape around the mining site. If Amy was out there, if she was watching, she would understand what he was trying to tell her. That night, Jake slept better than he had since the aliens arrived. Phase 1 of his plan was complete. Now he just had to wait and see if Amy got the message. Dr. Amy Chan had been living in the caves for 8 days now, and she was getting good at it. The underground tunnels were vast and complex, with fresh water springs and even some edible fungi growing in the darker areas. She had found a safe place to sleep deep underground where the alien scanners could not detect her. But Amy was not just hiding. She was exploring, mapping, and most importantly, thinking. During the day, she stayed deep in the caves where it was safe. At night, she crept closer to the surface to watch what the aliens were doing. She had seen them capture Jake, Lisa, and Danny. She had watched them build that crystal city in the worst possible location, and yesterday, she had seen something that made her heart race with excitement. Jake was leaving her messages. Amy had worked with Jake for 2 years. She knew how his mind worked, knew the way he looked at problems and found solutions. When she saw him walking around the mining site with the aliens, making small marks and moving stones in patterns, she knew he was trying to tell her something. The message was clear once she understood it. The aliens had built their main colony directly over the uranium deposits. They were planning to dig deep foundations for their bigger buildings, and they had no idea how dangerous this was. But the message also told her something else. Jake had a plan, and he needed her help to make it work. Amy spent the next 2 days moving through the cave system, checking on equipment that the aliens had ignored. The humans had been mining for 3 months, and they had machinery scattered across dozens of locations. Big drills, power generators, earth movers, and most importantly, the seismic equipment they used to map underground formations. The aliens had taken all the small, portable technology, but they had left the big machines because they looked harmless. Who would think that mining equipment could be turned into a weapon? Amy would. Amy understood exactly how these machines could be used to create the geological disaster that Jake was planning. The first piece of equipment she needed was the seismic resonance generator. It was a machine designed to send sound waves deep into the ground to map rock formations. But if Amy could modify it, those same sound waves could destabilize underground structures. The machine was located at Mining Site 7, about 2 miles from the alien colony. Amy waited until the middle of the night, then crept through the caves to reach it. The machine was big and heavy, powered by its own fusion battery. The aliens had not even looked at it. Amy spent for hours working on the machine with tools she had scavenged from other mining sites. She changed the frequency settings, modified the power output, and most importantly, she reprogrammed the targeting system. When she was finished, the machine would send focused sound waves directly at the uranium deposits under the alien colony. But one machine would not be enough. Amy needed to create a network of equipment that could work together to cause maximum geological disruption. The second piece was easier to find. A mining drill at Site 12 had been abandoned when its crew was captured. Amy modified its targeting system to drill in a specific pattern that would weaken the rock formations around the gas pockets. She had discovered the third piece was the most dangerous, a chemical processing unit that the miners had used to separate valuable metals from raw ore. Amy knew that the chemicals in this machine, if released in the right way, could react with the natural gas in the caves to create an explosive mixture. By the end of the third night, Amy had created a network of modified equipment spread across 6 different mining sites. Each machine was programmed to activate at a specific time and perform a specific function. Together, they would create a chain reaction that would turn the planet's natural instability into a devastating explosion. But Amy needed more information. She needed to know exactly when to trigger the sequence, and she needed to make sure Jake, Lisa, and Danny could escape before the planet exploded. That was when she saw the alien ship land near mining site for. Amy watched from a hidden cave entrance as Zephyrian soldiers unloaded more equipment and supplies. This was clearly a permanent operation, not just a temporary base. But what caught her attention was that Jake and Lisa were with them, still wearing their electronic colors, but apparently free to move around. Jake was pointing at different areas around the mining site, explaining something to the alien commander. Lisa was taking readings with alien scanning equipment. To anyone watching, it looked like the humans were cooperating fully with their captors. But Amy knew Jake better than that. She watched carefully as he moved around the site, and she began to understand what he was really doing. Jake was not just showing the aliens where to build. He was positioning them. Every suggestion he made, every recommendation he gave, was designed to put the alien colony in the most vulnerable position possible. More importantly, Jake was still leaving her messages, new stone patterns, scratches in the dirt, small markers. That told Amy exactly what the aliens were planning and when they planned to do it. The message she decoded that night was both exciting and terrifying. The aliens were planning to begin deep excavation for their main power plant in 3 days. They would be drilling directly into the uranium deposits, using their own high-energy equipment to destabilize the exact area where Amy had positioned her seismic resonance generator. Jake's plan was brilliant. He was going to let the aliens trigger the geological disaster themselves. All Amy had to do was make sure her equipment amplified their work at exactly the right moment. But there was a problem. The message also told her that Jake and Lisa would be working at the excavation site. When the drilling began, they would be in the most dangerous area when the chain reaction started. Amy spent the next day moving through the caves, checking and rechecking her equipment network. She programmed delays into some machines and advanced timers into others. She calculated how long it would take for the chain reaction to build, how much time Jake and Lisa would have to escape, and where they should go to be safe. Then she prepared her own message for Jake. On the second night, Amy crept as close to the alien colony as she dared. She could see Jake and Lisa in their crystal prison cells, guarded but not heavily watched. The aliens were confident that the electronic collars made escape impossible. Amy began creating her response message in the areas where she knew Jake would be taken the next day. Stone patterns that would tell him she understood his plan, dirt, markings that would give him the timing he needed, and most importantly, scratches in the rock that would show him exactly where to go when the destruction began. She worked until just before dawn, creating a detailed set of instructions that would coordinate their efforts. When Jake saw these messages, he would know that Amy was ready, that her equipment was in place, and that his plan could succeed. But Amy also left one additional message, something Jake had not asked for but definitely needed to know. She had found Danny during her exploration of the cave systems. Amy had discovered that the alien ship had a weakness. The crystal hull was strong, but it had ventilation systems that connected to natural cave openings. Amy had followed these passages and found a way to reach the area where Danny was being held. Danny was in a more secure cell than Jake and Lisa, but Amy thought she could reach him. The question was whether she should try to rescue him before the plan went into action, or whether that would alert the aliens and ruin everything. Amy decided to wait. Danny was safer in his cell than he would be running around the planet during a geological catastrophe. But she made sure her message to Jake included the location of Danny's cell and a route that would let them rescue him during their escape. As the sun rose on the third day, Amy retreated to her deepest, safest cave. In a few hours, Jake would see her messages and understand that everything was ready. The aliens would begin their drilling operation, not knowing that they were triggering their own destruction. Amy checked her equipment one last time. The seismic resonance generator was programmed and ready. The modified drill would begin its work as soon as it detected the aliens' excavation. The chemical processor would release its volatile mixture into the gas-filled caves. At exactly the right moment, all the pieces were in place. Now, Amy just had to wait and hope that Jake's part of the plan worked as well as hers did. She settled down in her cave hideout and tried to rest. In a few hours, Kepler 4b would become the most dangerous planet in the galaxy, and it would all be triggered by aliens who thought they had disarmed the humans completely. Amy smiled in the darkness. The Zephyrians were about to learn that humans did not need weapons to be dangerous. Sometimes, the biggest weapon was simply understanding how things worked. Jake woke up before dawn on the day that would change everything. He had seen Amy's messages the evening before, decoded every mark and pattern she had left for him. The relief he felt was enormous. Amy was not just alive and free, she was ready. Her equipment network was in place, and she understood exactly what needed to happen. Today, the Zephyrians would begin the deep excavation that would trigger their own destruction. "Are you ready for an interesting day?" Jake asked Lisa when the aliens brought them their morning meal. Lisa looked at him carefully. She had learned to read the subtle signals Jake used when he could not speak freely. "I think so," she replied, "though I hope everyone stays safe." Jake nodded. Lisa understood. Today would be dangerous for everyone, but if their plan worked, the humans would survive and the alien invasion would end. War Prime Vextal arrived with a larger group of alien soldiers than usual. The alien commander seemed excited about something. "Today, we begin the real work," Vextal announced. "The deep excavation for our main power facility. Your knowledge of this planet's geology will be very valuable to us." Jake stood up, trying to look cooperative and helpful. "We're ready to assist. Though I should warn you, deep drilling in this area could be tricky. The rock formations are more complex than they appear. On the surface, our equipment is very advanced," Vextal replied with confidence. "We can handle any geological challenges this primitive planet might present." Jake almost smiled at the aliens' arrogance. The Zephyrians had superior technology, but they did not understand that sometimes technology was not enough. Sometimes knowledge and experience mattered more than advanced tools. The aliens escorted Jake and Lisa to the excavation site. Jake was amazed at what the Zephyrians had accomplished in just over a week. Massive crystal buildings rose from the red soil, and alien workers moved everywhere with purpose. But most impressive was the enormous drilling machine they had assembled. The drilling machine was the size of a small building, made of the same blue crystal as their ships but reinforced with metal supports. It hummed with energy, and Jake could see heat waves rising from its power core. This machine could drill deeper and faster than anything humans had ever built. But it was also exactly what Jake and Amy needed to trigger their plan. "Impressive," Jake said to Vextal. "This machine must be very powerful. It can drill through solid rock as if it were soft earth." Vextal replied proudly. "We will reach the deep mineral deposits you told us about within hours, not days." Jake felt a cold thrill run through him. The aliens were going to drill much faster than he had expected. That meant the chain reaction would start sooner, giving them less time to escape. But it also meant the destruction would be more complete. "Where exactly are you planning to drill?" Jake asked. Vextal pointed to a spot that made Jake's heart race. It was precisely over the largest uranium deposit, exactly where Amy had positioned her seismic resonance generator. The aliens could not have chosen a better location if Jake had drawn them a map. "That's a good choice," Jake said carefully, "though you might want to consider starting the drilling slowly. The rock layers in this area can be unpredictable. How?" asked the alien engineer in charge of the drilling operation. Lisa stepped forward. "Sometimes when you drill through different types of rock, the pressure changes can cause unexpected reactions, especially if there are gas pockets or mineral deposits that might shift when disturbed." The alien engineer made notes on his device. "We will monitor for gas and pressure changes. Our sensors are very sensitive." Jake exchanged a quick glance with Lisa. The aliens would indeed detect gas and pressure changes, but by the time their sensors registered the danger, it would be too late to stop the chain reaction. "We should probably position ourselves at a safe distance," Jake suggested, "just in case there are any unexpected releases of gas or pressure." Vextal looked at Jake suspiciously. "You seem very concerned about safety for someone who is supposed to be helping us." Jake shrugged. "I've been mining for 15 years. I've seen what happens when people ignore safety protocols. Besides, if something goes wrong, you'll need us alive to help fix it." It was a reasonable explanation, and Vextal accepted it. The alien commander ordered a safety perimeter established around the drilling site. Jake and Lisa were positioned just outside this perimeter, close enough to observe, but far enough away to have a chance of survival. When the disaster began, the drilling started at midday. The massive alien machine began to bite into the red soil with a sound like thunder. Dust and rock fragments flew everywhere as the drill bit deeper and deeper into the planet's crust. Jake watched the depth readings on the alien displays. 100 feet, 200 feet, 500 feet. The machine was incredibly fast, chewing through solid rock as if it were sand at 800 feet. Jake felt the first tremor. It was so slight that most people would not have noticed it. But Jake had spent years working with explosives and unstable geology. He knew what underground movement felt like. Amy's seismic resonance generator had detected the drilling and activated it automatically. At 1,000 feet, the tremors became stronger. Several aliens noticed and began checking their instruments. Their sensors showed unusual seismic activity, but they assumed it was just the normal result of their powerful drilling. They were wrong. Jake could see confusion spreading among the alien workers. Their instruments were detecting things they did not understand. Pressure changes deep underground, chemical reactions in areas far from the drilling site, vibrations that seem to be getting stronger instead of weaker. Something is happening. One of the alien engineers reported to Vexthal, "Our sensors are detecting unusual activity throughout the region." Vexthal studied the readings. What kind of activity? Seismic vibrations, gas releases, chemical reactions. It's as if the entire area is becoming unstable. Jake felt another, stronger tremor. Amy's equipment network was working perfectly. The drilling had triggered the seismic resonance generator, which was destabilizing the rock around the uranium deposits. The modified drill at Site 12 had detected the vibrations and begun its own work, weakening the gas-filled caves. Soon, the chemical processor would release its volatile mixture. "Shall we stop the drilling?" the engineer asked nervously. Vexthal looked at Jake. "Is this normal for this type of geology?" Jake pretended to consider the question. "It could be. Sometimes when you drill into areas with complex mineral deposits, you get chain reactions. The vibrations can travel through the rock and trigger responses in other areas." "Is it dangerous?" Vexthal demanded. Jake shrugged. "Probably not. These reactions usually stabilize themselves once the pressure equalizes, though it might be wise to move back a bit more, just to be safe." It was the perfect answer. Jake had given the aliens an explanation that made sense, but downplayed the danger. They would continue drilling until it was too late to stop the disaster. At 1,500 feet, the drill bit reached the uranium deposits. The reaction was immediate and spectacular. A geyser of superheated gas erupted from the drilling site, followed by a sound like the planet itself was screaming. The aliens scattered in panic as their expensive drilling machine began to shake itself apart. "Shut it down," Vexthal shouted, but it was too late. The drill had destabilized the uranium deposits, triggering exactly the chain reaction that Lisa had warned them about weeks earlier. The rare earth elements, mixed with the uranium, were beginning to heat up, and that heat was spreading through the underground rock formations. Jake felt the ground shake violently under his feet. In the distance, he could see gas geysers erupting from other mining sites as Amy's equipment network did its work. The chemical processor had released its mixture into the gas-filled caves, and the combination was creating explosions throughout the underground cave system. "We need to evacuate," Jake shouted over the noise. "The whole area is becoming unstable." Vexthal was staring at his instruments in disbelief. "This is impossible. Our surveys showed this area was geologically stable. Your surveys were wrong," Lisa said bluntly. "This planet has been unstable for millions of years. We tried to warn you about the deep mineral deposits." Another massive tremor shook the ground. Cracks appeared in the crystal buildings of the alien colony. Several smaller structures collapsed as the foundation shifted and buckled. Jake grabbed Lisa's arm. "We need to get to Danny and get out of here. This is going to get much worse." But as they turned to run, they found their way blocked by Vexthal and several armed aliens. The alien commander's black eyes were filled with rage and suspicion. "You did this," Vexthal accused. "Somehow, you caused this disaster." Jake met the alien stare calmly. "We warned you about the geology. You chose not to listen. Impossible. We took all your weapons, all your technology. You had no way to cause this kind of destruction." Jake smiled grimly. "You took our tools, but you left us our knowledge, and you left us the planet itself." Another explosion rocked the area, this one much closer. The ground split open near the drilling site, releasing a cloud of toxic gas that sent the aliens running for their breathing equipment. "You're wasting time," Jake told Vexthal. "If you want any of your people to survive, you need to evacuate now. This chain reaction is just getting started." Vexthal looked around at the chaos engulfing his colony. Crystal buildings were collapsing. His drilling machine was on fire. Gas geysers were erupting everywhere, and the ground shook constantly. With increasing violence, the alien commander realized that blame and punishment would have to wait. Right now, survival was all that mattered. Get everyone to the ships. Vexthal ordered his soldiers. Full evacuation, leave everything behind. As the aliens scattered to gather their people, Jake and Lisa ran toward the alien ship where Danny was being held. They had very little time before the planet's instability reached critical mass. Behind them, Kepler 440b was tearing itself apart, and the destruction was just beginning. Jake and Lisa ran through the chaos toward the alien ship where Danny was imprisoned. Around them, the Zephyrian colony was falling apart. Crystal buildings cracked and collapsed as the ground shook with increasing violence. Gas geysers erupted from cracks in the earth, filling the air with toxic fumes that sent aliens scrambling for their breathing equipment. The electronic collars around their necks were beeping frantically, warning them that they were moving outside their permitted area, but the aliens were too busy trying to save their own lives to worry about escaped prisoners. "How much time do we have?" Lisa shouted over the noise of explosions and collapsing buildings. Jake looked back at the drilling site, where a massive column of fire was rising from a hole the aliens had made. The uranium reaction was spreading through the underground deposits, heating up the rare earth elements and creating a chain reaction that was growing stronger by the minute. "Not long," Jake replied. "When this really gets going, the whole planet is going to blow apart." They reached the alien ship and found it in chaos. Zephyrian soldiers were running everywhere, trying to load essential equipment and evacuate their people. Most of them ignored the two humans in the confusion, but getting into the ship was not going to be easy. The entrance was guarded, and the corridors inside were filled with panicking aliens. That was when Amy appeared. She emerged from a ventilation grate near the ship's base, covered in dust and carrying a backpack full of equipment she had salvaged from the mining sites. "I've been waiting for you," Amy said, grabbing Jake's arm. "Danny's cell is this way, but we have to move fast. I can hear the ship's engine starting up." Amy led them through a maintenance tunnel that connected to the ship's ventilation system. The tunnel was narrow and dark, but it bypassed the main corridors where the aliens were evacuating. "How long have you been planning this route?" Lisa asked as they crawled through the tunnel. "Since the second day," Amy replied. "I found all the ship's weak points while you were keeping the aliens distracted." They emerged into the ship's lower level, near the detention area. The corridors here were empty as all available aliens had been sent to help with the evacuation. Jake could hear the panic in their voices over the ship's communication system. Danny's cell was at the end of the corridor, isolated from the others. When they reached it, Jake saw his friend sitting calmly on a crystal bench, apparently unbothered by the chaos around him. "About time you got here," Danny said with a grin when he saw them. "I was starting to think you'd forgotten about me." Amy worked quickly to override the cell's locking mechanism using tools she had modified for mining equipment. Within minutes, the crystal door slid open. "How did you know we were coming?" Jake asked as Danny stepped out of his cell. "I've been listening to the aliens panic for the last hour," Danny replied. "Plus, I felt the tremors. Someone's been playing with underground explosives, and since I'm locked up in here, it had to be you guys." "Not explosives," Amy said proudly. "Geology. We turned the whole planet into a weapon." The ship shook violently as another massive explosion rocked the area outside. Through the crystal walls, they could see the glow of fire spreading across the colony site. "We need to get out of here," Jake said. "This ship is going to take off soon, and we don't want to be on it when it does." But as they turned to leave, they found their path blocked by War Prime Vexthal and the alien soldiers. The alien commander looked furious and desperate. "You will come with us," Vexthal said, pointing a weapon at them. "You will help us understand what you did to this planet so we could stop it." Jake shook his head. "You can't stop it. The reaction is self-sustaining now. The uranium deposits are heating up the rare earth elements, which are destabilizing the gas pockets, which are triggering more seismic activity. It's going to keep getting worse until the whole planet explodes." "Impossible," Vexthal said. "No species could plan something so complex without advanced technology." "You keep saying that word," Danny said. "Impossible. I don't think it means what you think it means." Another explosion, closer this time, sent vibrations through the ship's hull. The lights flickered, and somewhere in the distance, they could hear the sound of crystal structures shattering. Amy checked her watch. "Jake, the chemical reactions in the deep caves are accelerating faster than I calculated. We have maybe 10 minutes before the core reaction reaches critical mass." Vexthal's black eyes widened. "Critical mass? What does that mean?" "It means this planet is going to become a very small, very brief star," Lisa explained, "and anything within several thousand miles is going to get vaporized." The alien commander looked around at his panicking soldiers, at the collapsing colony outside, at the humans who had somehow turned his easy conquest into a disaster. Jake could see the moment when Vexthal realized that his pride and assumptions had doomed his entire invasion force. "How Bextel asked quietly. How did you do this without weapons or technology? We use our brains, Jake said simply, and we use the planet itself. You took away our tools, but you left us our knowledge. You can't disarm knowledge. The ship lurched as the pilot tried to lift off. Through the walls, they could see other Zephyrian ships rising from the colony's site, fleeing as fast as their engines could carry them. We have to go, Amy said urgently. The escape pods are on the next level up. Vextel stepped aside, his weapon lowering. The fight had gone out of him. Go, he said quietly. Save yourselves if you can. This disaster is beyond any of us now. Jake almost felt sorry for the alien commander. Vextel had made the mistake of underestimating humans, and now his entire species would pay the price. The four humans ran through the ship's corridors toward the escape pod bays. Behind them, they could hear Vextel giving orders to evacuate the ship faster, to get as far away from the planet as possible. They reached the escape pod bay just as the ship finished lifting off. Through the transparent walls, Jake could see Kepler for to be falling away below them. The planet's surface was covered with fires and gas geysers. Huge cracks ran across the continents like lightning bolts, even from space. They could see that the planet was tearing itself apart. There, Amy said, pointing to a small escape pod in the corner of the bay. That one's designed for long-range travel. It can get us far enough away to be safe. They climbed into the pod and sealed the hatch. Danny took the pilot's seat while Amy worked on the navigation system. Within minutes, they were launching away from the alien ship, flying as fast as the pod's engines could carry them. How far do we need to go? Danny asked, pushing the engines to maximum power. Amy was running calculations on the pod's computer. At least 50,000 miles, maybe more, when the core reaction reaches critical mass. The explosion is going to be visible from 3-star systems away. They flew in silence for several minutes, watching the planet shrink behind them. The Zephyrian ships were also fleeing, their blue hulls glowing as they pushed their engines beyond safe limits. There, Lisa said suddenly, pointing back at the planet. Kepler for 2B was beginning to glow. The entire planet was lighting up like a lamp as the underground chain reaction reached its final stage. The glow grew brighter and brighter until it was painful to look at directly. And then the planet exploded. The explosion was silent in the vacuum of space, but it was the most beautiful and terrifying thing Jake had ever seen. Kepler for to be simply came apart, expanding outward in a sphere of light and energy that grew larger and larger, until it filled their entire view. The shockwave hit their escape pods several minutes later, pushing them even farther away from where the planet had been. When the light finally faded, there was nothing left but a cloud of glowing debris where Kepler for to be had once orbited its star. Message received and understood, Danny said quietly. Jake activated the pod's communication system and began broadcasting on all frequencies. His message was simple and direct. This is Commander Jake Morrison of the human mining vessel Kepler Station. We have survived the destruction of Kepler for to be. The planet was destroyed in a defensive action against Zephyrian invasion forces. We are requesting immediate pickup from any human vessels in the area. He paused, then added, to any alien forces monitoring this transmission, the humans were completely disarmed. Before this action took place, we had no weapons, no technology, no tools of any kind. The planet was destroyed using only human knowledge and the planet's own geological instability. Consider this a demonstration of human capabilities when properly motivated. Over the next several hours, they received responses from human ships, Zephyrian vessels, and even some neutral alien species who had detected the explosion. The news spread quickly through the galaxy. Humans had destroyed an entire planet without using any weapons at all. 3 days later, they were picked up by a human rescue ship. Jake's report to Earth Command was classified at the highest levels, but the basic facts became known throughout human space within weeks. The Zephyrian Empire never attempted to invade another human world. In fact, they went out of their way to avoid any contact with humans at all. Other alien species began to treat humanity with a new level of caution and respect. The story of Kepler for to be became legend. Military academies throughout human space taught courses on environmental weaponization and planetary scale engineering. The incident proved that humans could be dangerous in ways that other species had never imagined. Jake Morrison returned to mining, but he never forgot the lesson of Kepler for to be. You could take away human tools, human technology, even human weapons. But you could never take away human knowledge, human creativity, and human determination. War Prime Vextal survived the evacuation and eventually wrote a report that became required reading in Zephyrian military schools. His final conclusion was simple: we disarmed the humans completely. We took everything that could be used as a weapon. The planet still exploded. Do not engage this species again. The galaxy learned that day that the most dangerous weapon humans possessed was not any tool or technology. It was their ability to look at any situation and find a way to turn it to their advantage, even when that situation was an entire planet.